President David Granger commits to assisting women miners. The president meets potential investors, and the head of state travels to the United States for a high-level hemispheric security meeting. We have the details of these and other presidential activities in this week's edition of the Diary for the period July 18 to July 24, 2015. I'm Paul McAdam. Guyana stands to benefit immensely once a family-owned group of companies which met with President David Granger during the week are given the go-ahead to invest in Guyana.
On July 20, investors from El Salvador, John and Letitia Homlish, met with President Granger at the Ministry of the Presidency. The investors were accompanied by Guyana Foundation Executive Cyprius Singh Bowden.
The primary concern of the President and his team, obviously, is that we have to find jobs for Guyana as quickly as we can. And so we have wasted no time, and we have started to scour the world, really, for people who could come to Guyana and exchange skills and possibly provide jobs. And so we reached out to Mr. and Mrs. Homlish, John and Letty Homlish. They're from El Salvador and own possibly the largest garment manufacturing operation in this part of the world, supplying the United States market. So they came to Guyana on a sort of a look-see mission to see the different regions of where they could possibly put up a garment factory. And not only one factory, but perhaps satellites where they can do assembly of different types of garments across the country.
According to Ms. Bowden, the possible move could create jobs and markets for Guyanese. Operating under the motto "Quality on Time," it was explained that the Homlishes own and operate several garment factories and companies across South America.
And we explained to him that we provide uniforms for the U.S. market, for the fast food industries, Wendy's, Burger King, McDonald's, the police departments in the United States, the fire departments, the hospitals, the pharmacies, the supermarket chains. We produce about 400,000 uniforms a week for the United States market. And what we propose is that if we could put a factory up here, possibly we could initiate by providing some uniforms for the local market here. And then, depending on what kind of free trade agreements are available for with the United States, Canada, or Brazil possibly for the future, or the Caribbean, we could expand to export. But we would initiate, if possible, by producing some uniforms, for example, these school uniforms for the local market here.
Thank you.
The President was given a discount when he met with one of this country's major investors.
Radisson's owner, Rudy Sarju, accompanied by Managing Director of Radisson Motor Company, Guyana, Maurice Gajadar, met with President of Guyana, David Granger, and the Minister of State, Joseph Harmon, at the Ministry of the Presidency on Wednesday, July 22. The purpose of the meeting was to iron out a settlement for repayment following a judgment which was made previously against the Guyana government. The Guyana government has reached an agreement with the Surinamese beverage company Radisson International NV with regards to the repayment of a judgment of $7.72 million in keeping with the ruling handed down by the Caribbean Court of Justice.
Actually, we are a Guyanese company. We work in Guyana a lot, and we want to be with Guyana a very good relation. It's not about the money, it's about the law. So we have spoken to the President, and the President requested certain things in discounts. We have given that, and we have granted these discounts for the people of Guyana, and to see that we can go a little farther.
The meeting was described as positive by Minister of State Joseph Harmon.
Quite generously, I decided to come this morning to visit with the President and to have a conversation. It's like he said, it's not just about the money, but it's about the relationship between the two countries, the Suriname and Guyana, and the peoples of those countries. Because when the government of Guyana has to fork out money to pay for anything, it is the people of the country that actually have to do without. And so Mr. Sarju's generosity is something that we really appreciate. He has actually given us a package which gives us some breathing room and would allow us to actually pay the debt, but at a reduced rate, reduced interest. And I think it's a very good package for Guyana. It's a very good morning for Guyana. And we really do appreciate what Mr. Sarju has done here this morning. I think the President is extremely grateful for what has happened.
The various roles that UNICEF can undertake across the country were discussed when the President met with the organization's country representative.
On July 22, UNICEF's representative for Guyana and Suriname, Marlene Flack, met with the President and Minister of Social Cohesion, Amna Ali, to discuss several major issues.
First of all, we discussed about birth registration, because there are still quite a number of children that go unregistered, notably in the hinterland. And we would like to work with the government to ensure that the government of Guyana meets its commitment to have all children registered by 2016. That requires quite a bit of work, but with the various partners working on this, we hope we can reach that objective. Then the President mentioned about his policy of every child in school, providing transportation to the children, and this of course is also in the hinterland an issue. The President received on his birthday last week a very nice present, a boat for children in the interior, and this would be really great if all children in the interior would have good transport to be able to go to school, because too many children still need to go very long distances. So it was every child at school is about providing transport, providing a meal per day, providing uniform.
Also discussed were initiatives to provide footwear and books for children in hinterland communities. The challenge of human trafficking was also noted.
As the teachers also say themselves, that if you cannot use corporal punishment, then what can you do to discipline children? But there is another way to discipline children. We can work with all the teachers, not as UNICEF, that we are a small organization, but we will do it through the Ministry of Education, to ensure that teachers have the capacity to use positive discipline, and we hope that that will help in reducing corporal punishment. It is of course also an issue that would still need to be treated by law and by the education bill. And then we informed the President of the work that we have been doing with assisting the government on finalizing the youth policy. The youth policy is now in a very advanced stage. Recently a seminar was organized with consulting a large number of youth and lots of partners, and to have a look at the policy and the action plan. For now we are focusing on finalizing the policy, and we hope that it will be introduced soon in Cabinet and thereafter in Parliament. And then once the policy is adopted, finalized and adopted, then we would start working on preparing an action plan.
In her opinion, the Education Ministry has a major role to play with regards to finding suitable alternatives to corporal punishment.
Government will be examining ways to boost the contributions made by local women miners.
On July 22, President Granger met with executives of the Guyana Womens Miners Association at the Ministry of the Presidency. Also participating in the discussions were Minister within the Ministry of Social Protection, Simona Brooms, Minister of Business, Dominic Gaskin, and Minister of Governance, Raphael Trotman.
First of all, we welcome the meeting with the President. He's actually the first President to actually agree to meet with us, and we welcome that greatly. We discussed mining issues that have affected miners, women in mining as well. We also spoke quite eloquently and for a very long period on trafficking in persons, which is a topic in which the government has been committed to since when they were in the opposition. And now we have seen greater commitment from them, and we look forward to continue collaborations between ourselves and the government.
Prime Minister added that the need for infrastructure to assist miners in their operations was also raised.
Especially now in the rainy seasons, we've also mentioned the need for new mining areas, the need for the creation of more roads to access those areas, as well as the need for exemptions and more benefits for miners, since we are the largest contributor to the economy.
It was explained that the proposals put forward to the President and his team will now be put to Cabinet for further discussions.
The President reiterates the threat posed by Venezuela's actions towards Guyana's territory and describes the region as being at risk in terms of peace and stability.
The Guyanese head of state led a delegation to participate in the United Nations Third International Conference on Financing for Development in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. President Granger renewed Guyana's solidarity with Africa and all other countries in their quest for sustainable development and to provide a good life for their people.
We renew Guyana's solidarity with Africa and all other countries in their quest for sustainable development and to provide a good life for their peoples. We renew our country's commitment to cooperation with other states in the search for solutions to the challenges that beset us. We renew our aspirations for prosperity, for equality, for dignity, and for security for all people everywhere. Guyana has had the honor of working with Norway and our host, Ethiopia, as well as with the entire international community on the preparation for this momentous conference. The draft outcome document submitted for our consideration is the result of painstaking labor to build a forward-looking framework and a solid foundation for global development efforts. We support its early adoption by this conference. We meet in testing times for the international community, overshadowed by the lowering of global growth prospects by the International Monetary Fund and the rising of political and humanitarian crises affecting millions of people across the globe.
The President noted that the Conference on Financing for Development is more than merely a meeting to mull over the modalities of financing.
It is about strengthening our confidence in the efficacy of multilateralism. It is about the collective exercise of our political will for the benefit of our peoples, for the benefit of our planet, and for the benefit of posterity. It is about shaping the future we want for our peoples for generations to come. Guyana is a small state, but one that is committed to sustainable development. Ours has been a long and arduous quest to secure a good life for our people. Our experiences have reinforced our resolve to build a more resilient economy, a more inclusionary democracy, and a more cohesive and coherent society. We are committed to overcoming the common enemies of our people: crime, disease, ignorance, and poverty. We share the objectives of this conference for sustainable development. Mr. Chairman, security and stability are indispensable to sustainable development and the pursuit of prosperity. We resent, we reject, and we resist the threat of the use of force or any unilateral coercive attempt by any one state against another in order to frustrate the legitimate aspirations of our people to enjoy a good life. The Charter of the United Nations and the tenets of international law must guarantee all states and peoples the benefits of secure livelihoods and sustainable development.
He added that the conference must make a fundamental contribution to the thrust towards greater global cooperation as they embark on an ambitious and transformative post-2015 development agenda.
First, we must renew global solidarity and our collective will to resolve global problems in a timely and effective manner. If we are serious about sustainable development, then we must be serious in our quest for mitigating the effects of climate change. This conference must inspire confidence in the collective commitment to implementing the post-2015 agenda. We will agree next September in New York, and we will aim to reach next December in Paris in the once-in-a-generation agreement to ensure that global temperature rise is contained within 2 degrees centigrade. Second, we must acknowledge that while governments must exercise leadership, the requisite actions and investments cannot be executed by governments alone. Other stakeholders must realize that their efforts will also be essential to delivering the future we want. The enterprise of development must count on the contribution of all segments of society. It must empower local communities and harness the talents of all of the people, especially women and youth. Third, it is clear that the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals will place heavy demands upon all countries. Our efforts to achieve the Millennium Development Goals taught us that significant progress is possible when the international community works together. Developed countries must continue to exercise real leadership in fostering international development cooperation. Equally, developing countries must continue to intensify their efforts.
Guyana, the president said, welcomes the emphasis of the draft outcome on these areas. He emphasized as well that the attention given to bridging the infrastructure gap must be continued, along with fostering of sustainable consumption and production patterns, along with promoting micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises.
The establishment of a technology facilitation mechanism, the strengthening of the Committee of Experts on Tax Cooperation, and the establishing of a dedicated forum within the United Nations to deliberate on the follow-up on issues for financing and development hold great potential to make the Addis Ababa Action Agenda transformational. Guyana is pleased to note the provisions contained with respect to the issues of concern to countries, such as the LDCs, LLDCs, and SIDS in special situations. The challenges faced by middle-income countries, not least of all the large number of small states in the Caribbean, also deserve the attention of the international community. For our region, the issue of debt is of particular concern, as the terms of trade which often work against the interests of small states. Chairman, Excellencies, this third International Conference on Financing for Development marks an important stage in our collective endeavor to secure a brighter and more sustainable future. Allow us to iterate our thanks for the opportunity which this conference provides to renew ties of friendship and cooperation. We renew also our common resolve to build a brighter, more secure, and more sustainable future for ourselves, for our children, and for generations to come.
President Granger departed Guyana on July 23 to address a conference and graduation ceremony on defense and security at the Center for Hemispheric Studies in Washington, D.C. in the United States of America. In his address, the president said that states currently face a security challenge, particularly small ones, and there are ways in which this need to be guaranteed.
The situation in my own country, the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, is an example of the vulnerability of small states. Guyana at the moment is facing a challenge to its survival by a larger state. The present threat, if not resolved promptly, if not resolved permanently, if not resolved peacefully, could lead to a deterioration of the security situation in the entire Caribbean and on the northern tier of the South American continent. This we must avoid. Guyana faces a threat to its territory and to its maritime zone. This threat is not a sudden spat between neighbors. It is not about a minor modification of the borderline. It has persisted for 50 years. Next year, Guyana will be celebrating its 50th anniversary of independence, and we have had to bear the burden of this threat for our entire post-independence existence. Investors have been intimidated. Development has been derailed. Projects have been obstructed. This is too much to bear for a country with fewer than 1 million people. At issue is the principle of the sovereign rights of a country to exploit its own resources for the development of its people.
The head of state added that there are several other issues that have to be addressed urgently.
At issue is the principle of the peaceful settlement of disputes and the avoidance of the resort to the use of force threats, and intimidation. At issue is the principle of the inviolability of international agreements and adherence to international law. These are the principles which are being violated. Small, weak states are often subject to territorial threats from larger, stronger states. The small state, on the one hand, seeks to guarantee its security from external threats. It is compelled, on the other hand, in the context of its limited resources, what political scientists call the iron law of limited resources, to cater for the needs of its people. The small state must choose, in the context of those limitations, whether to spend its money on rice or on rifles, on guns or on butter. The era of conquest by the conquistadores, the era of warfare by buccaneers and privateers and pirates, the era during which gunboats were instruments of international conflict is over for the Caribbean. We live in a civilized age. We live in an age of law. Small and large states must coexist peacefully, here in the Caribbean and elsewhere. Guyana, for its part, is committed to ensuring that the Western Hemisphere is spared any future form of armed conflict. It continues to employ the tools of diplomacy. It continues to seek the solidarity of the international community in its desire to bring about a peaceful resolution to the threat to its territory. It continues to place its faith and its faith in the mechanisms of collective security.
The president is a Perry Center, former Center for Hemispheric Studies graduate of the 2000 Defense Planning and Resource Management course. In the years since, he has lent his considerable expertise to the Perry Center programs by serving as an adjunct faculty member at the center in both 2008 and 2010. Also graduating at the ceremony was the Guyana Defense Force Senior Staff Officer.
That's all in this week's diary for the period July 18 to July 24, 2015. Before we go, these were some of the highlights. President David Granger commits to assisting women miners, the president meets potential investors, and the head of state travels to the United States for a high-level hemispheric security meeting. Do join us again for the next program when we will bring you more of the president's activities. I'm Paul McAdam, thanking you for watching. For more information, contact us via email at ginagovgy@gmail.com or visit our website at www.gina.gov.gy. Thanks again for watching.